Hello all, welcome to another endgame study of the Solving Other Studies to Improve Chess Calculation series. This was composed by the Romanian chess composer Árpád Rusz. I found about this composer only recently when I was doing the 21-day chess challenge on calculation, and I was following for the endgame studies the book from Oleg Pervakov. And I find this work also very interesting, and I decided to bring this one here for this series. So again, I suggest you watch the guide if you haven't, so you are better prepared for the practice. Then the main countdown of 10 minutes will start, and in the end, I'll catch you up with the beginning of the guided solution. And let's go with the first brilliant move. Brilliant first move it is to go with the king g8 double exclamation mark. We need to improve our endgame technique with this one. Why? Because let's say we go with the c7 pawn. This is a blunder. We just use the rook behind the pawn. Notice promoting is not in time because we will maneuver as black to grab the other pawns, and advancing also doesn't work because we are going to grab the c7 pawn while checking the king, and next move we just grab the a7 pawn. And the same goes if we are going to the other side, we just go behind with the rook. Now again, if the pawn advances, well, we just get it with a pin, so the king moves and then we just grab the pawn, so it's game over for white if any of the pawns move in advance. Of course, the king now sees, okay, if the rook comes to the 7th rank, I have problems, I lose my pawns. So let's go to the 8th rank. But why not going to the f8 rank, the f8 square? Well, because here, well, the rook can just come to the 7th rank directly. So no need to go to the other side. And of course, even if the king approaches the pawn, there are many ways to go for a win with black. One way is to go with the rook directly attacking the pawn, but let's go with the king to make it more fun. Let's now approach the king. And of course, over here, we are not only threatening to take the pawn as to deliver checkmate. So the king needs to move again. Again, the threat of checkmate. If the king goes to the side, and again, we are just getting closer to the end. If the king comes back, of course, we check it. The king moves away. We can simply grab the pawn, or if it goes, we grab the pawn and then we go for checkmate. There are no brains to need working over there. If it goes to the corner, it's checkmate. But most beautiful is, of course, not accepting the pawn and going directly for a checkmate. So with a bit of fun over here, we have found that okay, the king needs to avoid the rook to come to the 7th rank. So let's go with the king g8 double exclamation mark. So now the rook goes to e1 and it's white to play again. So 1 minute countdown, pause if you need more, and let's go with another move for a white. And again, it's too soon for advancing the pawns. Let's say we go with c7. It's not easy, but we can check with the rook. Rook e8 checks, the king moves. Now we attack 1 pawn, and of course, if now the a7, the pawn goes to a7, this is just similar to the same analysis that we did when we start by advancing the pawns. So it's game over for white from here. No chances at all. So white needs to find again another move on the 8th rank with the king f8. And of course, now black goes to the other side. And again, another minute for you. Pause if you need more, and find the continuation from here for white. And the correct move now is to advance the c7 pawn. It's the moment to advance the c pawn. Okay, if the king comes back, so to avoid the rook to come to the seventh rank, well, black just goes again to e1. This doesn't avoid defeat from black, but just forces white to repeat again the same position. So there is no progression with that. And moving the other pawn, well, this is just a bit easy for black. We just go to the other side, and now if the pawn advances, the rook can grab the a7 pawn. Of course, the king now is threatening to promote, but we just sacrifice the rook as black, and then in the end, it's black with an easy win from here, promoting the pawn, and bye bye. Game over. Let's see in another day what is going on. So we need to advance the c pawn. And of course, the main line is going to be the rook coming to the seventh rank. We are going to go with that in a while, but let's first see how to black can go on if it goes to h8. Of course, the correct move is for the king to approach the pawn. Now, probably black can grab the pawn. And from here, white has two options, but only one is good, and it is to go directly with the king, forcing the promotion of the pawn. So over here, there are not many options for black. Let's say white we just promote to the queen, forcing the rook to sacrifice, and the pawn race is, of course, very lost for white for black. We just promote to the queen, controlling the next move from the pawn. So it's game over from black. And so after the king comes to e7 and we grab the pawn, let's say the white pawn makes the mistake of going to a7. And from here, black is able to draw. Well, the first moves are a bit more or less intuitive. We need to go with the rook attacking the a7 pawn. Of course, now the king comes to d6, not d7. d7 just makes it a loss again, because the rook takes the a pawn and then pin the c pawn and will, of course, grab it, and the next moves will go with the promotion of the pawn. And so the king needs to come to d6. And now here there is a very fun way to draw this one, is to go with the king to f5. Now the king goes after the rook, but the king also approaches. And when we grab this position, of course, white can't promote c pawn, and grabbing the rook just gets a stalemate draw. So it's fun. It's a fun one to see. But that's why I bring you here for this variation, because we also can learn some beautiful theory about this one. I can say to you that if the king goes to any of these squares, g3, h4, or h5, it will also be a draw. So let's see the technique from that. So let's go with the king h4, and with the same idea, let's bring the king to threat the rook. And so now it's the last minute for you. This is a different position. It's black to move and to draw from here. And yes, we need to go to a draw, queen versus rook and pawn end game. So this one probably is on Dvoretsky books, or books on about the end game. So let's say now it's the moment we need to to allow the promotion on the other side, and then go. There are more than one way, but this is the fastest one. and go next and to create a fortress from here. So let's say, for example, over here, let's say one move for white. Let's check the king. The king comes in front of the pawn. Now white approaches the king, maybe. Now the rook goes to f4. And as you can see now, the rook is always cutting the approach from the white king. This is a defensive fortress that gives a draw for black. So always important to get these studies and improve a bit on our pure endgame technique when we are able to do so. But okay, let's go to the position that it's of our interest, that it's going to be in this position when white advances the c pawn. Now let's see how it will end. It's not hard from here. Of course, we can't promote with white because otherwise it will be just easy for black. So now we need to move with the other pawn. So 2 pawns now threatening to promote. Of course, we need to check the king. There are no ways from here. The king comes to e7, and now it's going to be similar to what we saw just now, but the king is on time to go there without approaching of the enemy king. So we just go with king d6, and notice how it would be fun if black was able to go with the same way, but it's not possible because the enemy pawn doesn't allow. So let's say it goes to e4, but it will be a move short from the needed one. On the previous variation that we saw, where black was able to draw, the king was able also to reach d7 on this moment, and it's not the situation. So it's white to play and to win, and from here it's easy. Of course, we are not going to grab the rook. That would be another stalemate. Don't make that the beginner's mistake. We promote the pawn to a queen, forcing the rook, to, of course, to sacrifice, and from here it's game over. Next move, we are going to promote the other pawn to the remaining queen, and 1-0. Thank you for coming here today. Hope you have enjoyed, and as always, I catch you up with future videos. Bye bye, and keep checking.